This video is about hedging with FKB3. Type of hedging strategy with FKB3. We have two types of hedging strategy with FKB3. The first one is anticipatory buying hedge strategy, or we call it as a long hedge strategy. The second one is anticipatory selling hedge or short hedge strategy. So how to choose your hedging strategy? Hedging strategy is based on your trading objective. When you read the question or you try to solve any case, you need to find out what is your trading objective. If you plan to lend your money or you plan to buy or invest in money market instrument in the future, for example, you want to lend out 1,000 ringgit to your friend next year, or you plan to buy treasury bills next month, so that is your trading objective. Okay, you need to protect that transaction by using long hedge strategy. So if you use long hedge strategy, you need to buy futures contract today. Okay, the second types of hedging strategy is short hedge strategy or anticipatory selling hedge strategy. You use that strategy if you plan to borrow money in the future or you plan to sell your money market instrument in the future. For example, your company plan to borrow 100 million next month. So you can protect that transaction by using short hedge strategy. So if you use short hedge strategy, you need to sell futures contract today. Next, I'll explain about how to convert interest rate and price. Okay, sometimes in the question, you will get information in form of interest. For example, in this table, I show you, let's say you get 5% of interest. To convert into price, you just take 100 minus 5 without divide by 100. Because usually 5%, if you put into formula, you need to divide it by 100. But to convert interest into price, you just take 100 and minus 5. Okay, so you get 95. If you have information in form of price, you can convert into interest. So to convert into interest, you just take 100 minus price. In this example, let's say you have price 96. To find out what is the interest for price 96, you take 100 minus 96. That means your interest rate is 4%. Let's move to the long hedge strategy. This is example for long hedge strategy case. As a treasurer of large insurance company, you expect an excess fund of 200 million for 3 months in December to be deposited in the CLIBOR market. Today is October, in which 3-month CLIBOR is quoting at 4.5% per annum, while December FKB3 is trading at 95.1 in the market. In anticipation of falling interest rate, establish your hedging strategy by showing your effective interest rate if the cash rate trades at 3.8% and December futures at 96.5. So when you read this question, you must identify what is your trading objective. So it is mentioned here, you expect an excess fund of 200 million for 3 months in December to be deposited in the CLIBOR market. That means you have extra cash 200 million 3 months from now, which is now is October. You're going to have that extra cash in December and you plan to invest it for 3 months. 3 months here means you start invest your money or you lend out your money in December and you expect your customers going to pay back the loan in February. 3 months, December, January, February. So your trading objective here is to deposit or to lend out your money in December. So we use long hedge strategy. And then, as usual, for hedging strategy, you need to find out what is today's spot price, what is today's futures price, and then later spot and futures price. So from this question, today's spot price is 4.5%, futures 95.1%, spot later at the time you want to close out your transaction is at 3.8% and futures price at 96.5. So these are information given in the question. For FKB3, Size of contract is 1 million per contract. Okay, this is based on the contract specification, and value of 1 basis point is 25 ringgit per 1 basis point. So these two things you need to remember because it is stated in contract specification of FKB3. Okay, so how to solve this hedging case? Okay, we know that we're going to use long hedge strategy. So hedging strategy, we have 7 steps. The first step, you need to calculate number of futures contract need to be traded. So the formula is for FKB3, investment amount divided by size of contract. So you plan to invest 200 million, or basically you plan to lend out your money 200 million divided by 1 million size of contract. You need to use 200 lots of contract. Second step, choose your hedging strategy. So your hedging strategy, you plan to deposit or you plan to lend out your money in December. So that means you're going to lend out your money in the future. So to protect that transaction, we need to use long hedge strategy. Step number 3, you need to illustrate your your hedging strategy table. Okay, so hedging table, we have 2 columns, cash market and futures market. So in cash market, today, you plan to deposit or you plan to lend out RM 200 million in Clibo market in December. The current interest rate is at 4.5%. To protect your lending activities in December, you use long hedge strategy. Long hedge strategy in futures market today, you need to buy futures contract. How many futures contract? 200 lots of contract based on step number 1. And then which contract month? December contract, because you plan to deposit or lend out your money in December. So current futures price is at 95.1. And then when it comes to December, you have that extra cash 200 million and you lend out in December for 3 months at lower rate of 3.8%. Then you need to close out your transaction in futures market. You start with buy, then close, you take opposite position, you sell 200 December contract at price 96.5. Step number 4, you need to calculate profit from futures market. So formula profit and loss for FKB3 is selling price minus buying price times number of contract times 100 times value of 1 basis point. So selling price, based on your previous hedging table, you sell futures contract at 96.5 and you buy futures contract at 95.1. So 96.5 minus 95.1 times 200 number of contracts times 100 times 25 minus 0. Broker's commission is not given here. So you get 700,000 positive amount. Positive means you make profit. Profit is cash inflow. Step number 5, you need to calculate the interest revenue from money deposited for 3 months in Clibo markets at 3.8% in December. Okay, interest revenue, because for long hedge, you plan to lend out your money. So when you lend out your money, as an investor, you will receive the interest. Okay, so that's why we calculate interest revenue. So the formula for interest revenue is principals times interest rate times T divided by 360. For FKB3, futures Clibo 3 months, the underlying asset is instrument for 3 months. That's why T for FKB3 is always 90, because FKB3 is for 3 months investment instrument. Okay, so principal is 200 million times interest rate in December. We use interest rate in December because we lend out the money in December. Okay, at 0.0038 times 90 divided by 360, so you get 1.9 million cash inflow. Why cash inflow? Because it is an interest revenue. Step number 6, you need to calculate net effect. Net effect, the formula is total interest revenue plus futures profit. So interest revenue 1.9 million is cash inflow. Futures profit cash inflow, that's why I put positive. So you get 2.6 million. Okay, so basically in long hedge strategy, investors use futures profit to increase back their interest revenue. Okay, so if you use long hedge strategy, your effective interest revenue is 2.6 million. Instead of not using any hedging strategy, you just get 1.9 million. The last step is to calculate the effective interest rate. So effective interest rate is net effect divided by principals times 360 divided by 990 times 100. So you plug in net effect figure from the previous step, 2.6 million divided by principals 200 million times 360 divided by 90 times 100. So you get 5.2%. So if you compare with hedging strategy, when you lend out your money, you receive interest 5.2%. Compared without hedging strategy, you just receive interest at rate 3.8%. Okay, so when people lend out their money, they want to get more interest because interest is their revenue. Let's move to the short hedge strategy. So this is example for short hedge strategy. An infrastructure company has a special short-term borrowing requirement for 500 million in June. In this arrangement, the company will be charged 2.5% above CLIBOR. Currently, the cash rate is 3.5% and expected to rise steadily within the next 3 months. So this information given from that question, okay, so value of 1 basis point, you need to remember at 25 ringgit and size of contract is 1 million per contract. Step number 1, you need to calculate number of futures contract need to be traded. So the formula is number of futures contract equal to investment amount divided by size of contract. So investment amount is 500 million divided by 1 million. That means you need to use 500 lots of contract. The second step is to choose your hedging strategy. So in this case, you plan to borrow 500 million in June. So you need to use short hedge strategy in order to protect your borrowing transaction in June. Step number 3, you need to prepare your hedging table. So hedging table, we have 2 columns, cash market and futures market. So in cash market, today, which is April, you plan to borrow 500 million from CLIBOR markets in June. So current interest rate is at 3.5%, but your company needs to pay additional interest charge at 2.5%. So if your company borrow today in April, you need to pay 6%. But your company plan to borrow in June. So to protect your June borrowing activities, you need to use short hedge strategy. Short hedge strategy, you need to sell futures contract today. So you need to sell June contract. Why June contract? Because you plan to borrow in June. How many futures contract? You need to use 500 lots of contract based on your answer in step number 1. When it comes to June, your company borrow 500 million at higher rate 5.1%, but your company needs to pay additional extra interest at 2.5% charged by the bank. So interest charged to your company is 7.6%. Then you need to close out your transaction in futures market. You start with sell, then close with buy. So you buy 500 June contract at price 95. Step number 4, you need to calculate profit from futures market. Okay, the formula is selling price minus buying price times number of contract times 100 times value of 1 basis point minus broker's commission. So selling price in your strategy, you sell futures at 96.05 and you buy futures at 95 minus 500 times 100 times 25 ringgit. So you get 1.3125 million positive value. Positive means you make profit, so profit is cash inflow. Step number 5, you need to calculate the interest expenses on money borrowed for 3 months in CLIBOR market at 7.6% in December. So why interest expenses? Because short hedge, you borrow money. When you borrow money, you need to pay interest. So the formula is principals times interest rate times T divided by 360. In this case, FKB3, the underlying asset, is instrument for 3 months. That's why T is equal to 90. So principal is 500 million times interest rate 0.076 times 90 divided by 360. So you get 9.5 million. So 9.5 million is your interest expenses. So interest expenses cash outflow. So we put negative. Step number 6, you need to calculate the net effect. So the net effect is total interest expenses plus futures profit. So interest expenses, I put negative because it is a cash outflow. You need to pay interest. Futures profit, you receive money, profit, cash inflow. So 1.3125, I put it sign positive, represent cash inflow. So your total net effect is 8.1875 million. So negative here means it is a interest expenses. So for short hedge strategy, futures profit is used to reduce interest expenses paid by the company. Step number 6, calculate the effective interest rate. The formula is effective interest rate is net effect divided by principals times 360 divided by 90 times 100. So net effect from previous step is 8.1875 million divided by 500 million principals times 360 divided by 90 times 100. So you get 6.55%. So if you compare with hedging, your company can borrow at lower interest rate, which is at 6.55% compared to 7.6% of interest without hedging. When company borrow money, they want to borrow at lower interest rate. Okay, this is example from past year's question. So please try to answer this question and you can check the answer in the next slide.